The Hong Kong Stock Exchange held the HKEX Connect Summit Monday to mark the 10th anniversary of the city's cross-border stock link. For more on the celebration, Bloomberg's Stephen Engle spoke with HKEX CEO Bonnie Chan.
On a very momentous occasion, the 10th anniversary, well, yesterday was, I believe, yes. Of the Stock Connect program. Shanghai first and then Shenzhen a couple years later. Obviously, a resounding success, according to your assessment, surely. But there's room to grow. How would you say, from that tea house meeting between Charles Lee of the HKEX and also, I believe, the Shanghai Bourse chairman back in 2012, that it would grow to this size?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. And it's certainly a very momentous moment. 10 years of the Connect story. I think we're still actually at the beginning. If you look at the volume so far, from the very beginning, southbound traffic has actually grown 50 times, and northbound traffic has also grown 25 times. And this is quite amazing. And if you ask me how we're going to continue to expand it, I'll say 3 ways that we're going to do it. First of all, products. We need to put more products onto the shelf. As you know, we started with stock, and then we expanded it to include bonds, ETFs. We're going to soon have REITs. But
we're waiting for that, though. Can I jump in and say there's no date yet?
Well, we're working on the details. I mean, certainly with every enhancement, we need to make sure that, all the screws are tightened up. And there is still a lot of white space that we can fill in. So that's the first dimension. Secondly, the microinfrastructure, which is very important. We need to make sure that the users of the Connect franchise have a good experience. And I think, very recently we've proven that with micro-infrastructure changes, the market can be greatly enhanced. Severe weather trading, as an example. I think we've proven to the world that Hong Kong as a market has stepped up to that moment. And then third, but not the last, it's the fact that at the moment, the participants, I think it's still a relatively small pool. I've been traveling a lot recently, and I would say that the Connect story is still pretty novel to a lot of our friends in the world. And so I'm going to go out there and continue to market the Connect story.
You've traveled a lot. You've been obviously to Riyadh. You've been back and forth to Shanghai and Beijing. You just came back from Lima,
yes,
APEC.
That's right.
What was the key takeaway there? Before we get into these steps, we need to talk about Primary Connect and the other things that have been promised but have not delivered. But what was your key takeaway quickly on APEC?
Okay, so my first takeaway from APEC is that I'm very happy to see that countries are still very willing and keen to make friends with one another. So, while I hear a lot about, geopolitics and all that and how it's going to dampen our markets, what I saw in Lima is quite the contrary. So that is a big encouragement. And secondly, the reason why I'm traveling so much is really to get, the story of Hong Kong and Connect out to the rest of the world. In this region, I think a lot of people understand, the impact of Connect and what it brings in terms of enhancing the two-way capital flows between China and the rest of the world. But a lot of, the rest of the world, it's still, learning about it. And so it's important for that kind of engagement.
Would you say the Connect program still, though, has its training wheels on? I mean, there's a bit of shackles. There's been promises to grow it. Primary Connect is the big one. Obviously, Charles Lee, back in 2017, said this is the next big thing.
Right.
This market's been waiting for that. Chinese investors have been waiting for this to get these primary listings into the Stock Connect. Some would say that it held back Aramco from even thinking about Hong Kong. So.
Well, it's very interesting you talk about, how everyone is waiting for it. Yeah. I think that basically shows that, the Connect franchise has a lot of promise. And in fact, I think the eagerness really stems from the fact that a lot of investors around the world want to take advantage of the growth of the China market, both in terms of, what corporates it's turning out, right? Those are great investment opportunities, as well as the investor base that China as a country is capable of providing the world. So my duty, my responsibility running the exchange is really to continue to build it with those 3 dimensions I just mentioned.
Sure. So northbound has been pretty fruitful for international exposure into China. I think over the past decade, foreign holdings of Chinese stocks have jumped more than 20-fold. But this Primary Connect would allow mainland investors to come in and participate in what used to be one of the hottest IPO markets in the world, right? Yeah. So what's holding it back?
Oh, well, okay, so you're absolutely correct that there is a lot of interest. In fact, if you think about the recent rally we had at the end of September and early October, we saw a very big jump in terms of southbound flow. And I think that illustrates the fact that, there's a lot of accumulation of wealth in the mainland, a very fast-growing middle class, and they're looking for diversification, right? And therefore, I think what we have to do at HKEX is really to continue to build. Primary Connect, I know, is something that a lot of people talk about, but that's not the only thing. We have a long list of to-do for how we're going to continue to develop the Connect franchise.
Okay. What's holding it back, though? I know you can't really. I'm getting a sense you can't really tell me.
Okay,
I mean, where are we in the dialogue with Beijing? Because I know they're worried during a slowing economy. They're worried about outflows, obviously.
Okay. So I think everything has its moment, and to make sure that it's successful, you want to capture the best moments, right? So IPO, you're very focused on it. I can see. The world has gone through a couple of years with relatively muted IPO activities. We are very happy that we're seeing a strong pickup in the Hong Kong market. Yep. And therefore, I think we just need to continue to build on that and make sure that, in fact, the strength of the IPO market returns. And I think with a stronger base and, a more robust pipeline, the conditions will be riper.
Okay, so right now the conditions are not necessarily ripe. You've raised about $9 billion this year, I believe.
Yeah.
$5.33 billion last year. So it's better than last year, but it's way off of 2020. Was it 2020? There was $53 billion or something like that.
Yeah.
So you have a ways to go. So again, I'm going to come back to the Primary Connect. Is it on the docket for next year?
Okay, so let's talk about where we are in terms of the IPO activities. And I'm very happy to report it because last time we spoke, I think, in terms of our league table ranking, we are a little bit sort of at the bottom of the top 10, shall we say. We're now number 4. And we have completed a very big IPO, my dear, which is a $4.6 billion US IPO, the second largest in the world this year, and the largest in Hong Kong since February 2021.
SF Holdings possibly too?
I think they are about to launch.
They just announced that they've had board approval.
That's certainly going, hopefully, to bring our total fundraise this year to above $10 billion US, which I understand, right? Compared to previous years, it's a little bit sort of slower. However, I think you need to look at the relative ranking. And for the rest of the world, the last 2 years have not been a particularly conducive year for IPO activities. But, I think we have reached a pivot point, and I'm certainly seeing momentum pick up.
So if there's not a deliverable on these other initiatives, including what REITs was announced earlier this year in April, we don't have a date for the beginning of that inclusion into the Connect as well.
So a lot of enhancements have been announced, as you know. So besides REIT,
tax waiver,
we also have southbound RMB counter, which is in the works. And like I said earlier, with all those, you need to make sure that the plumbing works. And we're working together with our friends on the mainland to make sure that all the system upgrades, all the infrastructure are built in a way which will make sure that the rollout is very, very smooth.
Last November, we also got an announcement that there would be trading in Treasury bond futures. We don't have any start date of that as well. Do you have any update for us?
Well, I don't. Okay, I will give you the same answer, right? We have been working on the technical aspects to make sure that the rollout will be smooth, and I don't worry about sort of not having a date because, as you can see, right? Recently we've seen a lot of measures being announced by Beijing, and all that have a very huge impact in the market, right? You saw the rally in early October, end of September, early October, and therefore I really don't worry about seeing all these positive momentum build up. In fact, we just need to make sure that there is a way to be ready for it, and not just being technical ready. The market also needs to be ready for it.
I have to ask you, what do you think is going to be the Trump effect on the Chinese economy and how that equates to capital raising, potential action against China, and the dampening effect possibly on the market here?
Okay, I know that question will come.
Yeah.
Now, to me, what we saw is that the week leading to the U.S. presidential election, the trading volume actually softened a little bit in our market. But as soon as the election is over, we saw the volume got back up again. So I think, with the presidential elections now behind us, there is now sort of the market knows how to move on, which is a good thing. To me, this is not the first time U.S. has Trump as the president. We've gone through that. What our market has continued to prove is that, whatever the conditions are, we have that resilience to make sure that we can ride the tide.
That was HKEX CEO Bonnie Chan speaking with Bloomberg's Stephen Engle.